Hi, my name is Jen Gelhardt, and I read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People in the Digital Age by Dale Carnegie and Associates. We've all heard about the granddaddy of all self-help books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, originally published in 1936 and written by Dale Carnegie. The purpose of the update for the digital age was to point out that even though we're so connected these days, we're more isolated in some ways than we were in 1936. Even with all this connective technology at our fingertips, we still need to strive for meaningful connections with others, because that's ultimately how to win friends and influence people. Today, things can go wrong with the click of a button. We may send an email to the wrong person and then have to control damage depending on what we said. We also tend to let off steam online and broadcast our personal feelings in the moment, which we may regret later. So in many ways, we have to be much more careful about what we say publicly. Unfortunately, bad-mouthing is really common online, and if you post something, it might be there forever. So if we have an urge to post a negative thing online, we can ask ourselves, why am I posting this? Is this productive? Am I okay with this being here forever? So let's get back to some of the concepts that Dale laid out in his 1936 original book. If you want to influence somebody to do something, you have to connect with them at a human level. We all want to do something fantastic with our lives, so you can use that lens to connect with others. Make an impression that you care, connect with people over their inner desires. Be genuinely friendly, be authentic, take a true interest in the likes and dislikes of other people, even if you know nothing about them. And the thing about all of this is that most people don't listen if it's not about them, so the goal here is to try to make your message about the person you're talking to. If you have a conversation where someone asks you about something you don't have strong positive feelings about, like, for example, if someone approaches you and says, oh my gosh, I just love Brené Brown, what's your favorite book of hers? Well, if you think Brené Brown is a terrible writer and you can't stand her ideas, don't say that, because if you say that, it might cause them some offense and abruptly end the conversation, because what else do you have to talk about? It's pointing out that you disagree on something. So what would be a better way to handle this? You could ask the other person a question. Ask them, what do you like about Brené Brown? Which of her books is your favorite? That keeps the person talking, it keeps you learning about them, and it forges that connection. Another big concept from the book was to avoid arguments. Arguments lead to dead ends. They're literally a waste of time. You're waiting for the other person to say that you're right and they're wrong. That doesn't always happen. So keep in mind that you can always diffuse a situation by admitting when you were wrong. The ability to freely admit mistakes is connected to success in your career, actually. So the positive results can often be achieved by avoiding negativity. Instead of telling people they're wrong, which you shouldn't do, don't tell people they're wrong. Instead, you can use praise and positivity whenever you discuss a big change. Acknowledge what has been done well so far. And it can be really beneficial to point out mistakes quietly and help other people save face. Be gracious, be empathetic, put yourself in another person's shoes. And if someone makes a mistake, I think this is really good advice. If someone makes a mistake, work with them on it the way that you would want somebody to work with you if you had made that mistake. So I have some challenges for you that were takeaways from the book. The first one is, you can pick a challenge and try it out this week. So the first one is to avoid arguments of all types for 1 week. Try this with your personal life, your family, whoever you're quarantining with, and also try it with your colleagues. The second challenge is to avoid posting negative things on social media or negative reviews. See if you can go a whole week without saying anything negative on the internet. And then the 3 and 4 are to try to get through a conversation, really making it about the other person. So challenge 3 is to try to get through a conversation where you don't use the word I, because that's such our default, isn't it? We love to share our experience and what we have in common with the other person when they might not really care. And so if we avoid using the word I, it forces you to continue to talk about the other person or the idea that you're discussing. And then the last one is to try to get through a conversation only asking questions this week. Can you get through an interaction or conversation where you're only asking the other person questions? I encourage you to pick one of those this week. In general, I think a lot of what we think of as common sense today came from this book, originally written almost 100 years ago. So it was cool to read about the ideas from 1936 that we still value today in our interactions. And if you end up reading the book, I would love to chat with you about it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie, the state director here in the lovely state of Iowa. And I appreciate your guys' time today to let me come and talk to you about this book that I read called It's the Manager. It was really fascinating because I actually read this book about a year ago, and to have the opportunity to look at it again, now in the work from home era, the COVID era, it was really interesting to see how it changed in some aspects and how some things completely stayed the same. So I'm really excited to share a few things that I learned about this with you guys, and then also maybe encourage you to have some of the same takeaways that I did, and maybe you can try them in your states as well. So actually the full title of this book is It's the Manager, Moving from Boss to Coach. And so that was really the overarching theme of everything, is not looking at yourself as a boss or a leader, but as a coach. And so an exercise that I did was I said, okay, if coach is sort of the goal, who's a coach, right? What is a coach? What is the function of a coach? And what coaches do we want to be like? And so what I did is a simple exercise that I think everybody can try right now or on your own time is I closed my eyes and said coach, and kind of went with, okay, who popped into my brain first? And being a Midwesterner, my family's from Chicago, two coaches kind of popped into my brain. One was Mike Ditka from the Chicago Bears, and the next one was Phil Jackson from the Chicago Bulls. And so I said, okay, what about these coaches really resonated with me from their coaching style? How can we take that from coaching and implement it in the workplace? So I looked at Mike Ditka first. I think he's the reason I probably chew gum all the time. But other than that, there weren't a lot of parallels between his coaching style and leadership style within the office. So I looked at Phil Jackson. And, I said, okay, what about Phil Jackson made him an excellent coach that we can try and replicate here? And I don't know if anybody else had an opportunity to also watch the documentary this summer about the Chicago Bulls called The Last Dance. But that gave a little bit more insight into Phil Jackson and his coaching style, and really resonated with some of the underlying themes in this book even more than originally when I had first read it. So I thought it was really interesting. And what he did, and what the book really tries to, with data, also point you to, is encouraging people to be the best version of themselves that they can be. And also understanding that because something works for me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. And I thought a great example from Phil Jackson, actually, that I'm going to use is he understood you can't make an entire team of Michael Jordans. So Michael Jordan was going to be Michael Jordan. You needed Scottie Pippen to be the best version of Scottie Pippen. You needed Dennis Rodman to be the best version of Dennis Rodman. And he knew that in allowing everybody to be the best version of themselves, it was going to make the team better. And some people made decisions that he didn't agree with, but he understood at the end of the day that they were being themselves and they knew what was going to work best for them better than he ever did. So one example they used is they were in the playoffs. Don't quote me on this because I'm paraphrasing. It's been a while since I watched it, but Dennis Rodman hops on a plane and goes to Vegas for the night, has a Vegas night, and comes back and plays the next day. Now, nobody would recommend doing that, but at the end of the day, he knew that he had to allow his players to be the best version of themselves and understand that they know what's better for them than he does. And so in encouraging people to think deeper about themselves and know what makes them tick and know what makes them excel at things, and then just allowing them to go do that, creating that space for them to go. A really cool thing that sort of presented itself that I really, went, oh my gosh, there it is, took from this, as well as the analogy I just talked about, was we had our fall event this year. And it was on a Thursday night, 7 o'clock, as everybody knows, events were a lot different this year. They were a lot of work. They always are. This year was special. And we were all tired. And so we got done, like 8 o'clock on Thursday, a couple of weeks of really heavy lifting to get there, but we did it. It was a successful event. And I have this really annoying saying that I think people probably get tired of me saying, and it's, the event isn't over until everybody's been thanked. That's the final chapter of an event to me, is making sure that those thank yous are getting out in a timely manner. I always do that the day after the event. Everybody's fresh in my brain. People like a timely thank you. And so I make sure to commit to myself that I'm going to get that done the next day. I had a staff who said, hey, I'm tired. I'm going to take tomorrow off, which would have been Friday, start fresh on Monday. Reactionarily, I wanted to say, hey, the day after an event is the best day to get your thank yous done. And this staff member absolutely would have said, oh, okay, no problem. And they would have worked that day and they would have gotten those thank yous out. I had to take a step back and sort of check myself and say, that's what works for me. This may not be what works for that particular staff member. And so they took the day off. The rest of us kind of sludged through Friday, got some thank yous out. It was hard, right? Like we were exhausted. You know how sometimes words just aren't coming to you. And that's certainly where we were, but we got everything done on Friday. We always have a staff call Monday morning where we just sort of set our priorities for the week and share with the team what we're doing. That call on Monday was so hard. We were just tired. We were burnt out from the last few weeks. And everybody that worked on Friday was really tired. Conversation wasn't coming naturally to us. The person that had taken Friday off was refreshed and ready to go, to the point where, I had to say, hey, can you lead this meeting right now? It's just not clicking for me. And, they took the meeting and they ran with it and had enthusiasm and they were refreshed and ready to go. And that really struck me as what worked for me, or at least what I thought worked for me, wasn't going to work for everybody else. And in allowing that staff to know themselves and know when they were done and know when they needed a little time off, made the team stronger on Monday, because we were all able to rally around their enthusiasm and pick up and start from there. And so that to me was, like I said, kind of brought it all together, where we take, being a coach and what is a good coach, and, some of the lessons learned in here about allowing people to drive their own bus and allow them, create those spaces for them where they know how they excel, they know where they thrive. And that's our jobs, is to make sure that they are thinking deeply and aware of those. And so that they can be the best version of themselves, because we can't turn a Scottie Pippen into a Michael Jordan. We can only have a Michael Jordan and a Scottie Pippen. And we know that they're going to work better when they're both their best selves, as opposed to one trying to be another. So that was really a main takeaway I took from this. I loved it. There's a part in it called working from home. And it's funny to read it again now, against reading it a year ago when we weren't working from home. And, it's something that a lot of people have struggled with, but the lessons learned in here, especially when it comes to that working from home section and the work-life flexibility, was really fantastic. And I'll recommend it. I'm out of time, so I don't have time to talk about it right now, but I would really encourage everybody to pick up a copy or read what you can on the internet about it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. It's a fantastic book. Like I said, it uses data, and it's just as relevant now as it was a year ago. And I think that the lessons that we can learn from this are far reaching. So like I said, think about a coach. What does a coach look like to you? What's a successful coach? And try and look at those strategies and understand what made them successful, and have that translate here into the work environment. So like I said, please reach out if you have any questions. And thanks for the opportunity to talk to you guys today.
Hi, I'm Nathan Reiman, and I work as Director of State Operations and Programs for Best Buddies in New Mexico. I'm going to talk to you today about Brené Brown's book, Dare to Lead. One quote that really stuck out to me in Brené's book is, "We all know what it's like to stay silent and comfortable instead of voicing what we believe." On this theme, I want to talk to you about tough conversations. I'm going to tell you about a time from my life when I could have used Brené's wisdom. I'm going to tell you about a time from my life when I learned about a theme from Brené's book. I'm going to tell you about a way in which I practice the values of Brené's book in my everyday professional life. To start, I'm going to share with you an example of a time when I could have used Brené Brown's wisdom. According to Brené, ego says it wants the answer quickly. Curiosity says it loves a wild ride. When I was 22 years old and working my first management job in a bakery, I had two employees who are my age. One of them trained me, and that following their shift alone without me on the shift, they left the bakery a mess. With the business owner upset and me feeling hurt and not knowing what to do, I didn't know how to act. And unfortunately, my ego prevailed. I cut the hours of both employees, and I never had a formal conversation with them about the incident. In retrospect, I wish that I brought the employees together to have a conversation, a tough conversation maybe for me or for them or for all of us. And I wish that I issued them a written warning. And I wish that instead of letting my ego prevail, I let my genuine curiosity prevail. And that, as my great boss Blake has taught me to do, that I asked questions. What happened? Why did things happen the way they happened? And, what can we do to work more effectively as a team moving forward? The next theme I want to share with you, or the next story I want to share with you, is about a time when I learned the importance of vulnerability when having tough conversations. To do this, I want to talk to you about my relationship between my sister and I, and I'll just show you a picture of us here. It's kind of fun to share with what AKS calls the work family, which is the work family, really. So growing up, people often used to ask whether my sister and I fought, as our relationship seemed so tight. While we did fight in our early years, something that helped to hedge this was an exercise that our mom gave us to teach us vulnerability and teamwork. Instead of sending us to our rooms to punish our less than desirable engagements, she would send us to the same room where we had to plan a presentation to her in which each of us had to share everything that we did that made the situation what it was. If we both covered everything, we were both free to go. If one of us allegedly missed something, we both had to go back to our room and try again together. As we did this exercise, we learned that more truth than our truths exist in the world, and we also learned that it is important to find and acknowledge the truths of each other and of others, even if we could only see a scrap of truth to their truth. The last theme from Brené's book that I'm going to share, and that I feel helps bring me success as a leader today, is living life to my values. I'm happy with the professional life I've created for myself, and whenever I feel like life is not all rainbows and sunshine, I zoom out and recognize how grateful I am to be learning, how grateful I am to be working with the best team that I've ever had the privilege of working with, and how grateful I am to be working with all of you as we, as a whole, promote inclusion in this wonderful global community.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lezlye Zupkus, the State Director of Best Buddies Connecticut, and I'm really excited to be with you here today for a couple of minutes to share with you a book on some tips that I read about having crucial conversations. I've had some good ones and some bad ones over the years, like I'm sure you have. Anywhere from I had to have a crucial conversation about laying my whole staff off to having one about someone that I really, really liked and weren't doing their job, and it was affecting the whole team. So, as you know, these can be really uncomfortable. But what I have found is that the most influential people, and I'm not talking necessarily about just CEOs and presidents of organizations, but the most influential people and the greatest leaders are really people that can get things done, build relationships, and have mastered those crucial conversations. Because when you have these conversations, the stakes are high, opinions vary, and emotions can run really, really strong. These conversations have a big impact on the quality of a person's life, somebody's life, or their professional life. But the goal is really to be the person that can have that crucial conversation in a way that gets heard without the other person becoming angry or defensive. They're very hard, and I've done it myself, thought, what, I'll wait, I'll back off, haven't had them. I end up not sleeping, I get sick to my stomach. It's just not healthy. So the best thing to do is really to have them, but in a very professional and safe way that everybody can feel heard and free to say what they want to say and need to say, which is dialogue. This is where it turns those crucial conversations into success and results. People that are good at it say some of the things that are on their mind and sugarcoat the rest, but the people that are best at it really speak their mind completely and in a way that makes others feel safe so they can hear what you have to say and they can respond. Speak persuasively and not abrasively, though. The other thing is to listen. Actively pay attention. This doesn't mean that you have to agree, but it means that you are listening to what they have to say. You will learn so much from somebody by listening, and you'll know where they're coming from. People are nervous when you're in these situations. And if they're nervous, it's okay to acknowledge that they're nervous, and you want to get them talking. You want to ask a lot of questions to get their opinion and know what they think. The most important part, and what I really learned, is you have to start from the heart. This is not a debate. It is a place where you need to be very sincere and hear what they have to say. You need to be curious and ask a lot of questions to get to that underlying source. And you need to be patient because people can get angry or go silent. So you need to encourage them to share their path for some kind of a solution. This is really about working towards a common goal, caring about those goals, and them knowing that you care, and knowing that they trust you. Do they trust you? That's extremely important because that's when they know that you're sincere and it will be coming from your heart. You want to make sure when you have these to do a couple of things. You want to prepare and gather your thoughts and inform the person of the conversation. Ask the questions and listen as if it's your only job to understand. Recognize, acknowledge their perspective. Express yourself clearly, articulately, and honestly, and solve. Convert those ideas from the dialogue into action. So remember, make it safe to say anything you want so they don't feel attacked or humiliated, and they can hear almost anything you have to say and not get defensive. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicolini, and I'm the State Director of Best Buddies in Maryland. A little about myself: I have a genuine love for coffee, and learner is my number one strength. I also enjoy the occasional good read, and today I want to share a little bit with you about one of my latest reads. It's called Hacking Leadership: 10 Ways Great Leaders Inspire Learning That Teachers, Students, and Parents Love. I have to say this book applies to anyone who wants to be a more effective leader. It breaks it down so simple and gives you 10 simple hacks that you can implement tomorrow to have a true impact. So three of the key takeaways that I want to share with you today. The first is be intentional. Be intentional in everything you do. Be present, be engaged. Don't just be there, but be engaged. Interact with our participants, the parents, the advisory board. Every single interaction that you have, be present, be engaged. Nurture a positive culture. Be intentional as you do this. You have Culture is not changed by meetings in the conference room. Culture is changed with every 30-second interaction that you have. So you have over 9,000 opportunities in an 8-hour day to shape and build your culture. So take those opportunities, be intentional in every single one of those interactions, be present, be engaged, make sure that person is the center of your universe, and build those relationships. The second key takeaway I want to share with you is open doors. This book talks a lot about flattening the walls. Get out of the office and build those relationships and share your story. If you do not share your story, people create that narrative. So take ownership of it and share all the positive, wonderful things that are happening and put it out there. Share it on social media and share those stories. Have your students and participants take ownership of those stories. Have them take over your social media accounts for a day. But be intentional, open doors. The next one is build staff, hire superstars. And when you hire those superstars, make sure that you give them the opportunity to really play to their strengths and their passion. Give them growth opportunities to learn and hone in on those passions and those strengths, because the more they do that, the harder they will work, and the more positive environment that you'll have, and it will radiate into the community. So, and also create an environment of collaboration and learning. We're in this together. So work together, learn together, and share all those best practices with everyone. So those are my 3 big takeaways. Be intentional, open doors, and build your staff. 2 things that you can implement tomorrow. First being kickstart your day by writing 2 positive notes. They could be to staff members, colleagues, advisory board members, but kick it off with 2 positive notes. It'll put you in the right mindset to kickstart your day. Before you do anything, write those 2 positive notes. Another action item that you can implement tomorrow: start or end your week making 5 positive phone calls. If you call up a parent of a participant to share how wonderful they are, don't just say that their child, who's the chapter president, is amazing. Share why. What did you witness firsthand, and share that with that parent. And before you know it, you will see this change, not only internally, but also within the community. And it'll be positive, and it'll be wonderful, and you'll be the leader you've always inspired to be. So start hacking leadership. All right, have a great day.